Battle of the cheap Hefeweizen.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. Today is a comparison between these two. These are two cheap-ish brand wheat beers which are available from Lidl's. I was mooching about there today doing a little bit of a shop and I saw them both on the shelf, which is a little bit unusual to see two Weissbiers competing against each other. This Patronus stuff, oh, hang on, wrong one. This Patronus stuff is Lidl's own brand. It's brewed by supposedly Perlenbacher. Perlenbacher doesn't exist, it's just a brand name. It's contract brewed by the Eichbaum brewery, which is based in Mannheim, which is in Baden-Württemberg in southwest Germany. Now, Eichbaum, if you're wondering, it translates to oak tree brewery, and they do all the well, I say all of them, they don't do all of the beers that Lidl's sell. They do the steam brews. Have you seen them? Supposedly a craft beer, fucking vile stuff, don't bother, terrible stuff. They do them, and what else do they do? I'm trying to think now. Well, they do this stuff, and they also do the Perlenbacher. Now, I've tried that Perlenbacher. I think I've done a review on the channel years ago, and it was skunked, and they do them in green bottles, and I'm just fucking done with green bottles now, to be honest. And it's going to be rare that I review a beer in a green bottle now. There's just no point. My blood pressure's high. I don't want to fucking raise it any higher. In fact, this is my first beer for a while now. As I said in my previous video, I've had to cut down a little bit. I've got a bit of a yellow card from the doc. My blood pressure is dropping, so it's definitely the fucking beer. And I've just got to rein it in again. It was getting stupid, to be honest. I was drinking far too much every night, and it was getting ridiculous. Fuck knows how that little Welsh fella does it. He must be a fucking piss tank or something, because he drinks like a fish, and he drinks early in the morning as well. I've never done that. I'm saying that. I have done that, but on special occasions I don't make an habit of it. But yeah, I mean, good luck to geezer if he can get away with it and his health's all right. But that will catch up on him in the end. It will catch up on all of us. I'm not going to preach to you about drinking responsibly, I should say. You're all fucking big and ugly enough to work that out for yourself. And fuck them government twats saying, oh, you know, the chief medical officer, fuck him. But just be aware that there is a reckoning if you're caning the beer. And, you know, at my age, I should really be reining it in, and it was getting out of hand. I've got a mate saying that. I've got a mate who's, was he 77? He drinks like a fucking fish, and there's not a bother on him. He walks faster than I do. Honestly, he's a freak of nature. I'm just looking at Percy down here. If you hear some snoring, I've got him a new bed. Now, there was a little bit of I'm going to go into a little bit of a fucking tangent here, but I will get back to these two beers. I just want to tell you this story. It's quite funny. This is my office, and I work in here during the day, and there's a little dog bed in there. There's only room for two dogs in there. So Dora, the little Jack Russell, and Percy were asleep in it. And my little other dog, Bob, he came in and he wanted to get into the bed, and there was no room, and he just looked up at me all sad and doe-eyed. And I was on my computer, and I just said, oh, don't worry, Bob, I'll order you one off Amazon. And when I ordered it, I thought it would have been a great advertisement for Amazon. You could have got the dog walking in all fucking doe-eyed and sad with the two dogs in there, and there's no room for him, and then there's me going, oh, you know, I'll get you one, blah blah blah. Well, the other bed turned up today. I put it on the floor, and there was fucking World War III broke out. They all wanted to get on it, and there wasn't enough room, and I had to separate them all on more than one occasion. So yeah, there wasn't a happy ending to that one. Anyway, it's all calmed down now. Percy's asleep. I don't know where the other two are. Dora's probably out in the garden eating shit and barking at things as she normally does. But that is the way of Jack Russell's. Anyway, let's stop gashing and let's get back to this beer. Now, Patronus, as I say, is the own brand of Lidl. You can get their well, the Patronus is the wheat beer of the Perlenbacher range. Perlenbacher, of course, is the lager there as well, and that's brewed by the Eichbaum Brewery, who are based in Mannheim. Franziskaner, they are made by the Spartan Brewery. Have you heard of Spartan? Well, it's called Spartan Franziskaner now, and this should be quite widely available in the UK, and there's a reason for that, which I'll get onto in a minute. But Spartan have been going for a hell of a long time, 1397 no less, and they're a pretty old company. And Spartan, of course, in German means shovel or spade, and it's basically a malt shovel. That's their emblem. And I've reviewed Spartan Lager on the channel. They actually did have quite a lot of the Spartan stuff up in Aldi at one point, and I bought a load of them up there, and I got one of my mates onto drinking it, and he absolutely loved it. It is a nice lager, I will say that. They're based in Munich. They're one of the Munich Six, and everything that goes with that, with the Oktoberfest, they are allowed to be part of the Munich Oktoberfest. That old fucking commercial caper, not really my scene, to be honest, but I'd rather go to a smaller one. I've heard the one at Eying and the one in Augsburg are really good, so I'd rather go to them, to be honest. I don't want to be fucking sitting around pissed up fucking American tourists who can't hold their beer trying to fucking sing songs and all that. Fuck that. That is my idea of hell. Anyway, rant over. Now, the reason that you can find this lot, or this beer, in the UK, not so much the others. They do. The Franziskaner is the wheat beer range of Spartan. But they do a Dunkel Weiss, which I've reviewed on the channel. Wasn't really impressed with that. They do a Keller beer, which was pretty average. I think this, to be honest, is the best one out of the range. They do an alcohol-free one. They do a light one as well. But this one is quite widely available. I think if you go into most supermarkets, you'll see this. Tesco's, I know, do it. Morrison's do it, Asda's do it as well, so you really have got no excuse if you want to pick some of this up. But the reason that it's available, or quite widely available, is because they're owned by AB InBev, and AB InBev really do have good distribution routes into the UK. So a lot of the foreign beers, I should say, that you see in the UK that are quite widely available are brewed by AB InBev. Left being the perfect example. That pile of shit is disgusting, but that's why you see that in almost every shop. They've even got it in Skunk Central around the corner. It's because AB InBev, they've got very good distribution routes into the UK. But there you go, and that is really all I've got to say. Now, the two beers have been reviewed on the channel years ago, and they're just, I would say, okay. Now, this is an acceptable wheat beer. I'm not going to say that it's bad, because as I say, I think I do know a bit about the taste of wheat beer, and I would say this is just okay. There's much better than this. Two that immediately spring to mind are Schneider Weiss and Weihenstephaner, but they are two of probably the best wheat beers in Germany. But there's also some other better ones as well. I think the Paulaner wheat beer, or the Weissbier, I should say, is better than this. I think the Einsiedler from East Germany, I think their wheat beer is better than that. This one, I do recall that it had I wouldn't say quite a sour tinge, but like a tangy tinge to it, which is coming from the yeast, which would suggest very, very slight, not yeast contamination, but wild fermentation. Now, that might sound like a bit of an extravagance for a budget brewer, but when you get that in wheat beer, it means that there is a little bit of I wouldn't say it's accidental, but it's, for me, I quite like it, but many people that might put them off with that slight sour tinge. I love sour beers. That's I would say it's my thing, but I love lambics, and I love everything about them. That lactobacillus, spontaneous fermentation that goes with it really does. I don't know. It's just my thing. I do like it. So a bit of sourness on a wheat beer is not going to put me off, but it may put some people off. However, if you have it in any other style of beer, I'm against it, especially English beer. If I get the merest hint of sourness, the Victory Ale from Bateman's is an exception. That's really nice. That's an exceptionally good beer. So the little sourness on there, I think that's built in, and I like it. Some people don't like it, and they do make mention of that when I reviewed it. Anyway, I'm rambling. Let's get this beer investigated. Right, so let's go with the Patronus first. As I say, this is brewed by the Eichbaum Brewery. It's 5%. It is a wheat beer that brewed in Mannheim. So technically, this is a Weizen, not a Weissbier. They've been a bit naughty there. Weissbier is only supposed to be on the label if it is brewed in Bavaria. But this lot are flouting the rules. German wheat beer brewed in accordance to the German purity law. That doesn't mean fuck all to me. Powered by Perlenbacher. There's no mention of the Eichbaum Brewery on this at all. I've had to look that up. You can see how they're trying to copy Franziskaner's label. I'll get onto Franziskaner's label in a bit. There's a bit of an interesting story about that. But you can see that they've tried to sort of, I wouldn't say pay homage, but cashing in on the marketing that Franziskaner, the successful marketing that Franziskaner have done. And I do remember that Rheinbacher did this as well with their wheat beer. Rheinbacher, which is Aldi's own brand beer, or no, is it? Yeah, it is Aldi's. That's brewed in France now, so if you're wondering why it tastes shit, that's why. It's brewed by is it the Saint Omer Brewery or something like that? Or one of them dodgy fucking French breweries. But this is the original Franziskaner, and when you see monks on the front of wheat beers, these were the first. Now, there was a fella in Germany in 1935, pre-war Germany, when the Nazis were in power, believe it or not, named Ludwig Hohlwein, and he designed this label for Spartan. Now, he was an ardent National Socialist, and during the war, he was very, very closely linked to Joseph Goebbels in doing the Nazi propaganda posters. So if ever you see the wartime Nazi propaganda posters, they will have been designed by Ludwig Hohlwein, the same fella that designed the beer on this brew. But there you go. And if you hear snoring, that's Percy. Percy, wake up! You're stealing the show. Speaking of Nazis, did you know that Jägermeister was named after Hermann Göring? He was in charge of he was a forestry minister and for hunting and forestry, and Jägermeister was called something else, and when he came to power, Jägermeister was trying to lick his arse, and they renamed their spirit Jägermeister after him. So every time you have a Jägermeister, you are, well, I won't say you're drinking to Hermann Göring, but when you say Jägermeister, that's who you're invoking. You closet Nazis, you. Anyway, enough about Nazis. Let's get on to the next section. Let's get these open. Now, a kind subscriber did show me a video, or put me onto a video, with a very novel way of pouring Weissbier. Now, I'm going to try that here. So if I end up getting covered in it, I will not be a happy camper. Right, so, blimey. There's some very rich aromas coming from there. Right, there's the two caps there. I'm going to have to get fucking autofocus to do its thing, because it's fucking useless, you bastards. Can you see that? I'll come on autofocus. Don't fuck about. There you go. There they are, respectively. The P is obviously the Patronus. Right, now let's get this Franziskaner filled out. Now, normally you would pour it and the head would build up and you'd leave a little bit in the bottle and you'd swill it around and then pour it in. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to pour it normally up till about a quarter of the way and then just tip it up like that. And it fills itself up. Gives it a bit of a head, and you lift it up out of there and it fits in there perfectly. Now normally with these beers, oh twat, got it over the side of the glass. Normally with these beers I'd have to wait for the head to die down. Now you need to get everything into a glass. Normally when I sniff beers, I just put a little quarter of it in there and take a sniff, but you can't do that with Weissbier. You have to get the whole lot in there, because the yeast is the most important part in these. I'm loath to do that here. Look, I've fucked that up massively. This is what normally happens. Alright? Just so as you know, I wasn't lying. This is what normally happens when you try and do that. Now I've got to wait. I've got nearly, well, just over half a bottle there. God, I really can smell them sour notes on there. Right, and that's fucked up. So that's how you pour one. That is not how you pour one. But immediately, can you see the difference between the two? You probably can't, but I'm going to describe it to you. This one, the Patronus, looks a lot thinner. This one looks to have more body in it. I'm going to concentrate on this and let that head die down for a bit. So what are we getting on the nose on this? Yeah, nice sweet. And this is what I expect in Franziskaner. It's a very, I wouldn't say it's a very sweet wheat beer, but it has got, I would say, more sweetness than other German wheat beers. It's renowned for its sweetness, bubblegum, sweet esters, that type of thing. The only one that springs to mind that is as sweet, or possibly even sweeter, certainly with the bubblegum esters, is the Einsiedler Weissbier. That's really nice, that is. Yeah, it smells lovely. Banana, big banana on that. Clove is, I wouldn't say minimal, but it's in the background. It's not as big, but you can get it. And there's a little touch of spice on there, like white pepper, etc., all coming from the yeast. The yeast is the most important factor in this for flavour, when it comes to flavour anyway. Now I'm going to try and get some more of this in there. There's only a little bit left in there. Yeah, and this is different. This has got more of a sour, bitter edge to it, which is kind of what I remember from previous. Almost like a Belgian Wit. And do you know what, for once, when I spoke about certain beer reviewers, they say they can smell coriander. I don't believe they can, but I can actually get, I don't know whether it's psychosemantic, but because I've just mentioned Belgian Wit, but I can get the vaguest hint of coriander. It's not big, but it's very, very vague. But let's get the rest of it in here. There's a little bit left, and there we go. So that's how to pour one and how not to pour one. But there you can see. Or maybe I can compare the two. I really can see the difference in the body though. This is well, I'm looking at what you're seeing in there. This looks darker, and this looks lighter. That's probably accurate, but this is a lot more thinner body. This is dense. It's the dense orange colour, dark yellow orange colour. Right, let's get them down. Ye oldie hatch. We'll go with the Franziskaner first. Zum Wohl, as they say in Germany. Yeah, it's nice. Long finish on it as well. Quite sweet, a lot of banana, fair amount of bubblegum. The clove is there, but it's not as dominant as certain other German wheat beers. Not a bad thing. Some people call that a medicinal taste. It puts a lot of people off, in my opinion, and I quite like it, to be honest. But some people, as soon as you mention clove, that's it, they're out. That's why they don't like wheat beers. But I do. I think it's far more pronounced in the Belgian Wit beers, but you do get it in the German wheat beers. But I do like a Franziskaner. It is a nice go-to beer. Yeah, quite nice. No complaints. It's not outstanding, I will say that. I wouldn't say it's run of the mill. It's slightly better than run of the mill. It's just a good fridge filler, good readily available wheat beer that you can get in the UK. Right, now let's try the Patronus. Right, Lidl's finest. Zum Wohl, as they say in Germany. Immediate difference. Right, so firstly the body, you notice that, and I kind of expected that anyway. When you compare the two, you just have to look at them to see that there's more body in that than there is in this. Don't get me wrong, it's not watery. Well, in the grand scheme of things, it actually is watery. If you're drinking it on your own, if you're drinking it on its own, then you may not notice it as much. But when you try it up against something like the Franciscana, you really do notice that the body is weak on this. I'm going to dive in again. God, you really can get the sourness on the esters, on the aroma. Yeah, and there's a definite bitterness to this one. When I say bitterness, I don't mean it's bitter. I'm talking comparisons now. In the grand scheme of things, that's relatively sweet, but I would say that the Franciscana has got more sweetness to it, and that sweetness, I'd imagine, is coming from the bubblegum esters. And again, as I always say when I talk about bubblegum esters, I'm talking about flavours like juicy fruit chewing gum. That's what I mean. If you've ever had a juicy fruit, I don't know whether you can still get it or not, but if you can, and you're wondering what I'm talking about, if you've never tasted it, go and buy a pack of them, and you'll get an idea of what you're in store for with one of these wheat beers. This though it's bitter. The sour note, I think, has probably been covered up a little bit by the sweetness from that one. If you want to get an idea of what I mean by the sour note, if you've tried Keller beer, that has a sourness to it as well. Well, most good Keller beers have a sourness to it. This is on a par, but I think it's slightly more sour. There's a maltiness to it as well, slightly bready, wheaty malt to it, but it's not as big a finish as this Franciscana. You can tell that this has been brewed sort of on a budget, because it doesn't have that big a finish as the Franciscana when it comes to yeasty esters, which to me says that the yeast that's been used for this is, how can I put it, it's contract brewed yeast, so it's obviously not the best yeast out there, but it's not bad, I will say that. But the body is weak, and that lets it down in my opinion, because when you try it against and it's, as I say, it's a reasonably good wheat beer. God, the difference is, I wouldn't say night and day, but it's stark. Immediately there's more body to it. When you go back to it, more flavour too. And in a blindfold test, that would be immediately apparent. I'm not tasting with my eyes here. I really can taste that difference. Yeah, and when you go back to it, you do get the weak body and the weaker flavours. Now, you can say, well, you get what you pay for, and I suppose in this case it is true. The Patronus has been brewed by a contract brewer, supermarket contract brewer, and if you've watched my other videos before, I did vow I wasn't going to review a supermarket contract brewed beer, but I thought this was quite pertinent because the two were sitting on a shelf together, or more or less together, and I thought, well, let's give it a go. So if ever you are in Aldi and you do see these two, you know what to go for. But this, in a pinch, it's slightly better than what was on offer. There was a lot of Green King stuff. There was Bishop's Finger on there because it's Kent, and Shepherd Nema just down the road, they did have Bishop's Finger. They also had Spitfire as well, so you could have picked that up if you wanted a decent top fermented ale. But if you were definitely sort of in the market for a wheat beer, then that would get you in a pinch out of your predicament. But I have to say the Franciscana is just so much better. Full bodied, full of flavour, goes down nice big banana and clove finish with some bubblegum esters on the top. There's more sweetness to this as well. It's just an all round better beer. I more or less knew that was going to be the case anyway, but I just wanted to prove it to you and compare the two, because if you drink this on its own you might think, well, maybe this isn't too bad. As soon as you compare it to a decent one, then yeah, this really does show its shortcomings. Cheap ingredients, weak bodied, a typical cut corners contract brewed beer. So what is the verdict on these two? Well, this isn't going to be difficult for me. The Franciscana wins hands down. It's just a better beer. There's more body to it, more flavour, better quality ingredients, and it's just an all-round better beer. A very good representation of the style. Not the best wheat beer in the range. There's, as I say, the three that I've mentioned, Schneider Weiss, Weihenstephaner and Einsiedler, all make a better wheat beer, as would Iinga, Hacker-Shaw definitely do, Augustine, any of the Munich breweries and any of the Bavarian breweries I would, well, for the ones I've tried, would be slightly better than this. But this isn't bad, don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking it. This isn't a bad wheat beer, this isn't a bad Weissbier. I do like the design on this, even though it's done by one of Gorbel's mates. But yeah, that is a nice one, and it's been copied a lot, even by this lot as well. You can see that they've done that on there as well. But Rheinbacher did it as well. So yeah, what they say, the biggest form of flattery is imitation. So there you go. But this stuff, this was £1.35. This was £1.85, so 50p in a difference. I would say pay the 50p extra and get this. I know money's tight this time of year. Well, every time of fucking year at the moment, it's just gone fucking crazy, hasn't it? But personally, I think it is worth shelling out just a little bit more. And if you're buying in abundance, then you're probably going to have to forsake one bottle than if you was buying that. But you know, I'm more for quality over quantity. But if you just want to get the taste of a Weissbier, then yeah, get this for £1.35. But I think you're missing out if you do that. It's not great, to be honest. Certainly not compared to these good ones. And of course, if you're a little bit flush, then get yourself onto House of Trembling Madness or Beers of Europe and get a good quality one like Schneider Weiss or Weihenstephaner. Tap 7 from Schneider Weiss, I don't think that can be beaten. The only one that comes very close to it is the Weihenstephaner. The Hacker-Shaw stuff is close as well. So yeah, that's, you know, a different league, to be honest. But I'll probably drink both of them and probably won't get the Patronus again. That's it done for me now. As I say, I'd rather pay the 50p extra, and if I wanted to go for a real quality one, I'd go to Morrison's and get the Paulaner Weissbier. I certainly would not be getting the fucking Erdinger. Do not buy Erdinger. That is a pile of bollocky dog wank. But there you go. That's it for me. That is, I would say, that's a solid 8 out of 10. This is, compared to it, now that I've compared to the two, this is a very sad 4.5. That's all I can give it. It really does. On its own, if I'd have tried that first, I would have said, yeah, probably this is okay, and then tried that and thought, right, okay. So yeah, there you go. This one wins all day long. Solid 8 out of 10. This is 4.5. And remember, beer is working class champagne.
Like and subscribe, or the puppy gets it. Isn't that right, Purse? Yeah, get off.